This is to the other three wonderful men at the table. I'd like them to perhaps give us an idea of some of the public policy issues they work on in the neighborhood, in the state, things they've done in government trying to improve their neighborhood, state of Utah, the United States of America.
Yeah, like 1 minute to answer. I know it's quick.
All right, one of the things that I have done is, as a member of the Executive Committee of Prevent Child Abuse in Utah, and as a member of the Governor's Commission, Governor Orly Walker's Commission on Prevention of Child Abuse, I helped draft legislation that was intended to provide funding for child abuse prevention programs in the state, help lobby to try to get that legislation passed, work with a diverse group of people from the community, all who had an interest in child abuse prevention, ranging from prevention specialists to people in law enforcement, to people in the healthcare industry. And sadly, while I worked on that tirelessly for about a year, the bill wasn't passed because it had about a $70,000 fiscal note attached to it, and this was in a year when we had the money to pay for things like that, so it was outrageous to me. We were told we would get it the next year, and we didn't, and the economy started to tank.
I've been a delegate to the state and county conventions for a couple of years. I was an Obama delegate. I've been the chairman of the State Democratic Progressive Caucus, the co-chairman, and that's about all I've done. I haven't proposed any legislation or written any. I think I could do a better job than the guys who are up there doing it now.
Thank you. For the last 3 or 4 years here in Utah, I've been deeply involved with Crossroads Urban Center, Equality Utah, and most recently the last year and a half with 4th Street Clinic. Each one of those organizations which I participated in, including the ACLU, each one of those organizations that I'm involved in, both as a donor as well as a foot soldier in the grassroots effort of trying to make change. I have participated in many discussions about policy with respect to LGBT issues. I was actively involved in helping to promote the changes in Salt Lake City with Equality Utah. And I have been very involved in supporting Crossroads Urban Center, who fights for the poor, for elimination of food tax and various other things. So that's been my involvement.
John, why don't you ask questions since you're the microphone?
Okay, the question I've got is, what in your professional life and your experience has prepared you to handle very complex economic matters dealing with billions of dollars, hundreds of millions and billions?
I have to answer that.
No, you don't have to.
Nothing.
I'm just curious.
I've primarily been a criminal defense lawyer, and I've defended people who are charged with crimes in federal court. Very few of them have billions of dollars, although I have defended some money laundering cases too with some people from Las Vegas. We did have a few bucks, but that's not my bailiwick.
I represented clients and defended clients in court where $500 million was at stake. And I did that on the defense side. I've done it several times, in fact, not $500 million, but several $100 million. What skills I brought to that table were skills as a lawyer. One of the things lawyers do when they're handling cases like that is negotiate, advocate, learn to understand the legal issues surrounding the problem, and try to bring about an effective resolution to a very complicated and expensive dispute. I'm completely aware of the economic ramifications of how litigation works. I've worked with people where tons of money was at stake and worked effectively to solve problems with ultimately not having to have those clients and matters go to trial.
As a member of the Salt Lake City School Board, we passed a bond which finished off air conditioning and retrofitting all the schools in Salt Lake City so they would withstand a 7.0 earthquake. Now, I can't remember how many hundreds of millions of dollars is in the Salt Lake City School District budget. As a citizen, as a teacher, as a lobbyist, I've spent over 20 years at the Capitol lobbying on public education budgets. I can tell you that Doug McDonald, the former tax commissioner, has identified $750 to $1 billion a year that the legislature is systematically defunded from public schools. I can tell you that comes from 4 sources, one of them being the 5% single rate flat income tax, which is taking $220 to $240 million a year out of public schools, one of which is a proliferation of over 600% the increase in sales tax exemptions and corporate tax breaks that have been given in the last 9 years by the legislature. Another issue is the property tax, and there's a 4th one. I do understand cold public education budgets.
Thank you. Tommy, do you want to ask a question?
You know, actually, I kind of disagreed with the format for tonight. I, as a Democrat, think that we should be up here taking crack shots at each other. So my preference would be, rather than to ask a question of the other people sitting at the table, would be to open up the mic to questions from the audience.
We're going to do that anyhow, right after this.
Well, then I'll throw a softball. All right. Gentlemen, distinguished gentlemen, what is it, as if you get elected, that you plan to do to advance the interests of the Democratic Party in the state of Utah?
Well, I plan to be a loud voice in the legislature for open-minded and unfettered-minded people. I plan to be a loud voice against the kind of gerrymandering that occurred in the last census, after the last census. All we can do is be a loud voice against it because the legislature is going to do it, so we've got to stand up and be loud about it. Also plan to stand up and be loud about these bills that purport to exert eminent domain against the federal government, bills that purport to tell the federal government that it can't regulate guns intrastate in the state of Utah. All of this has been settled for some time in most courts. Apparently Utah doesn't understand it. That's some of the stuff I'll be doing.
Thanks. Why don't you give it to Tommy? I mean, give it to John.
The most difficult question I've been asked in my candidacy is, how do you speak intelligence to stupid? That's a tough question. And my answer to that is, if you can't beat them directly, you must go around them to the people and appeal to their sense of right and wrong, of good, and inspire them perhaps to realize that some of the rules and regulations that we're running things by, when we're at the bottom of the pile on the educational expense side, we're not spending enough money. That matters. It's the money, stupid, on that one. I plan to stand up and fight for that, probably with the most vigor that I have. Secondly, will be my deep commitment to equality and social justice, as well as a clean environment. Because if we don't have a good environment, we can't bring tourists.
Joel?
Tony asked a great question. One of the commitments I would give to the state party and to the citizens of the state of Utah, the District 25, is that I would help recruit candidates and I would help do training. I'm in a unique position working in Davis County. I work with 13 Republican state senators and representatives. We're losing Cheryl Allen, which is a great loss. We have a wonderful Democrat running against Representative Curtis Oda in Clearfield. You'll remember Curtis Oda, HJR 24. We don't need any more affirmative action programs in Utah, which they tried to slide through the last week and a half of legislative session. I'm very positive about the potential of Chris Williams, who's filed a run against Representative Oda. We can't win. If we win all the seats in Salt Lake County, we only have 42% of the legislature. If we win all the seats in Salt Lake County and one in Sonoma County and one in Carbon, we're still not there. We've got to go into some other counties.
Dixon, you want to ask a question?